Great. So, hi there. My name is Zubin Bhettay. I'm from a company called DoubleDutch. We deliver mobile event applications for conference organizers and for events, trade shows, and conferences. So, what I'm going to do today is talk about what we've seen in our industry is the problem with event marketing and events in general. Understanding and quantifying event ROI, or return on investment. So to start things off and to make sure we're all on a level playing field, I'm going to paint a bit of a picture around what we see is one of the biggest challenges within our space as event professionals. And then what I want to do is, rather than just focus on the problem, and obviously what we see is as something that we need to address, but I want to think about the opportunity that is open to all of us as event professionals. So how we're able to take advantage of the opportunity that is there is going to be key to our success as event professionals in general. So there is a massive opportunity for us as event professionals, and I'm hoping that by the end of this talk, you're all going to walk away from this thinking about how you can really take advantage of this opportunity and what you're going to put into action as event professionals to really take advantage of this. So what I'm going to focus on going through the opportunity is really following on from that. What comes next? What comes next for you as event organizers? What comes next for us as event professionals? How are we able to take a technology that we have available to us and then put that to good use? So this, I don't want to ask everyone to kind of read through this, because I'm one of those people that hate seeing a slide exactly like this. But there are 2 points that I want to call out over here. The first is events are one of the main components of any organization's marketing mix. And they're going to continue to be incredibly important to not only us as event professionals, but also to organizations in general. The second is, while every other aspect of marketing, and while marketing professionals have this array of different tools and different solutions that they can put into place, we're falling behind as event professionals in terms of how we're able to really quantify and assess how successful we're being in marketing. So let's play this out a bit. If we have a look at this slide, events really constitute the largest, if not the largest, then the second largest area of any CMO or Chief Marketing Officer's budget, which basically gives us some insight into this. If we think about every other area of marketing, we're able to understand and scope out what's happening around each area. We're able to have tools not only to implement, but also to assess the success of each of these areas. So if we have a look at it, if we have a look at every other area of marketing, we're able to understand not only how to implement and use best practices, but we're also able to understand how to assess the success of these various tools as well. We look at digital advertising, marketing, website analytics, and email marketing, and not only are there tools for us to implement to make us successful, but they're also tools that enable us to understand how successful we are. The problem that we have is, if we look at the biggest area of spend over here, we have no real understanding about how we're actually putting these dollars to good use and what we're actually able to generate at the end of it. So right now, if we think about events, what we're looking at is we've invited X number of people and Y number of people have attended. Or we have X number of people that have bought tickets, and as soon as they walk through the registration gates, there's very little that we're able to understand about where they're spending their time, what they're spending their time on, and how our actual dollars spent as event professionals or event marketing professionals are actually generating us further revenue and revenue potential. So marketing is all about data. It's all about the tools that we have available to us. And if I put my consultant's hat back on, I think about, you can't manage what you can't measure. And if I take another step back and I think about one of the sayings that our CEO talks about very regularly, if you think to one of the sayings, one of the very famous sayings of J.J. Wanamaker, half of my advertising budget is working and half of it isn't. I just don't know what half that is. So if we think about that, how are we becoming smarter as event professionals and how are we becoming smarter as marketing professionals to actually put these dollars to good use? Right now, if we look at events, this is the main way that we're able to understand how our dollars spent are actually generating us leads and obviously resulting in further revenue. If I think about it, this is probably the most advanced technology that we have right now to understand, or that is being implemented right now to understand how dollars spent are actually generating revenue. So as marketing professionals, we leave events, and this is what we're left with. We are left with this black box to understand essentially how our dollars spent are actually then resulting in revenue generated. Okay. So we know that there's a gap. But what next? Does anyone know what this picture is? This is, sorry? It is. This is a papal inauguration. So this is a papal inauguration in 2005. This is the papal inauguration in 2013. And you can tell, I don't need to kind of draw any conclusions out there for anyone, but you can understand what the changes that happened over the last 8 or 9 years. So there was a really, really important event that happened between these two times as well. And essentially, if we look at this, in 2007 was the introduction of smartphones. So we're still very much in the early phases of this growth curve. For the first time last month, the number of smartphones out there actually eclipsed the number of feature phones, the number of mobile phones that are out there as well. If we think about it, and this is a slightly uncomforting thought, but there are 4.2 billion people in the world with toothbrushes. There are 4.8 billion people in the world with a mobile phone. So it's a slightly uncomfortable thought, if I put it into context, but it's something that's real, and something that as event professionals, as people within industry as a whole, we need to understand the capabilities of this and what this actually opens up to us. So it really is still early days in what we're actually able to achieve out of this. So the key thing that I'm looking at is, what does this mean for us as event professionals? This is a really interesting statement for me, because basically what it tells me is that we're constantly increasing the amount of data that we're making available within the realm. And if we then look one step further, mobile is creating this platform that is really increasing the amount of data that exists out there. So how are we actually utilizing this data to become smarter about how we actually use the tools that are available to us and actually start putting this into action? So let me take a step back. For us as event professionals, what is the opportunity really that exists for all of us? What does it really mean for us to basically take this and put it in the context of an event? When we think about events, we're able to really understand a bit more about why people are attending events. We have these nodes of interest points around an event. We have speakers, we have products, we have content, we have exhibitors, we have attendees. But how do we map what speakers are most relevant to what attendees? How do we map what content is most relevant to what speakers, and what products essentially are going to be most interesting to what attendees as well? The holy grail that we think about in the world of event marketing is, how do we map what exhibitors are going to be most important to attendees? And essentially for the exhibitor, how do we map what attendee are most interested in the products that we're actually showcasing around an event? So I'm going to put this into context of and give you a bit of a case study around an event that we actually provide a mobile event app for. So this was the Game Developers Conference that took place in San Francisco earlier this year. Basically, UBM, who's one of the leading conference and event organizers globally, put on this event annually. They have one in San Francisco, they have another one that happens in Europe, and then they have the third event that happens in Asia. And what was really interesting for UBM around this event was they wanted to take more advantage of the data that was available to them. They wanted to understand what people were doing as they walked through the door, and in more detail, what was happening when they were actually on the floor. So when we think about this, one of the things that our head of marketing, who's actually sat here today, talks about is, we think about the fact that we're able to understand what people are doing on our website. Our digital footprint, we're able to understand where everyone spends their time, how much time people are spending on our websites, how much time people are spending reading emails, whether they've clicked through those emails, what they're doing, when they're spending, what products they're interested in, so that when we actually have someone reaching out to us, we actually have a picture of what that person is interested in with regards to our company. And what UBM were trying to do around Game Developers Conference was try and understand exactly that around their events. Because once you take things offline, it's very difficult for us to understand what people are doing once they've walked through the registration gates and once they're visiting booths, speaking to other people, the conversations that they're having and the products that they're interested in. In addition to that, they wanted to understand a bit more about their speakers. So who was interested in what speaker and essentially what content was resonating with the attendees around an event. So a picture that really emerged over here as we look at this event, we really were able to track every tap within our application. This is our methodology where every tap gives us a signal as to what people are really interested in. It's a little interest signal to what people are doing around an event. So we're able to paint a picture around what sessions were most important and what was resonating most with these attendees based on the taps that give us different signals, whether someone was having a look at a particular session overview, whether they were rating something, whether they were actually checking in, whether they were then posting that into various social media streams. All of those little actions basically gave us little interest signals according to each different item within the application. And this is where things started to really become clear for UBM as an organization, because they were trying to understand what speakers were really thought leaders within the space. So for a long time, pretty much for the last 4 to 5 years, Jesse Schell and Jay McGonigal have been basically highlighted as the thought leaders within the space with regards to gaming and game development. But one of the speakers who didn't even have a keynote slot within this event and basically was speaking on a panel at one of the breakout sessions was highlighted as being the most influential speaker around the event. What was really interesting for UBM was they then took Hideo Kojima and put him in not only a breakout session slot, but they basically gave him a keynote slot at the following event in Europe, which happened a couple of months later. And there was something that was really interesting that resulted from that, because when they were looking at actually promoting the event and selling tickets, the subscriptions and registrations went up by 25% year on year. And they attributed that to them using the data that they got from one event and how they put that into action to actually generate more insights and be able to generate more engagement through their attendee group as well. The key thing that we're thinking about around events as well is how we're able to deliver more value to exhibitors. So, as I mentioned before, marketing budgets are scrutinized a lot more now than they were in the past. So how are marketers putting those marketing dollars to good use? And when we think about that, how we're able to explain or make visible to exhibitors that their attendance at an event is not only important, but it actually generates increased value and increased return on investment. And you can quantify that now as well. So this is something that's incredibly important for us as an organization. So let's hold on a second over here. So we know that events are far behind the other areas of marketing. We know that mobile is what we call a rocket ship, and really, if we're not taking advantage or we're not understanding the capabilities that mobile are enabling, then essentially we're missing the boat over there. We really need to become a bit smarter around how we're utilizing the tools available to us to actually become more effective within our roles as event professionals. So event applications may be the way that you're able to marry these mega trends that are happening, that are taking place out there, and how we can basically become more effective in our roles. We think about this in terms of how we're able to enable our clients to build communities around their events. We don't think about events as being the 2 or 3 days that basically happen throughout the year. We believe in what we're terming the other 362 days of the year. How are we able to keep a community engaged for more than just the event? So we're delivering more value to speakers because they have more engagement with their attendees. We're delivering more value to exhibitors because rather than 2 or 3 days, they have a 365-day scope of eyeball time that they're looking for. And as event organizers, how they're able to take what happens around one event to then add value to their events moving on in the future as well. And creating this platform of a community where people are engaged all year round enables our clients to basically have this one single central repository of everything that is real within their industry. And that's something that really excites us. So what comes next? We know that smartphones and tablets and basically mobile devices are today's delivery vehicle for this, persistent connectivity. If we think about it, how many people over here, give me a show of hands, pick up their phone while they're lying in bed? How many people over here reach out for their mobile phones when they wake up? Not only just to turn off your alarm. Right? How many people over here, and this is a real stat, 80% of the people in the UK will spend 20% of their time in the evening before they go to bed on their mobile phones. So if we think about that, this real persistent connectivity delivers this real opportunity for us as event professionals. And how we're able to put this to good use is something that is incredibly exciting for us. We believe that there's still a lot of scope for us to take advantage of. And I don't believe that anyone is really or can really profess to really nailing what the real opportunity is and basically putting that to good use. So if you basically, if you ever spend any time around where our head office is in San Francisco or in Silicon Valley, or this is pretty much the same in London as well, you would have seen this. Unfortunately, the reality is that we've all probably done this at some point. But really, we can do better about this. And we can do better about the opportunities that we have available to us. That is the reality of the situation. How do we take advantage of that situation to make us a bit more effective in what we do and actually generate a lot more return for what we're actually putting our dollars towards as well? So the end game might look something like this. But again, I think we can all agree that we can do better. So let me give you a bit of insight around DoubleDutch and who we are as a company. And I don't want to take up too much time. If at the end of this, there's something that really resonated with you, then come up and have a conversation with us. Our booth is just a little bit further back over there, and I'd be really happy to have a conversation following on from this as well. But this is the vanity point, so I'm going to take a couple of minutes and just give you a bit of scope into who we are. So we started off in 2010 and officially existed as a company from 2011. We've been around for a little while, and over the last 3 years, we've basically deployed around 1,500 mobile events applications for some of the largest organizations out there. Today, we've basically closed up to around $20 million in total funding. We've got an office that we opened up earlier this year in Amsterdam. We've recently opened up an office in Hong Kong, and we're continuing to grow. To give you an idea of the number of people that we have in our company, last year this time we were around 25. And by the end of this year, we aim to be at around 100. So we're really going through this hyper growth curve. And if that says anything to anyone over here, it basically should say that events are something that we see as a massive opportunity. It is a greenfield. Mobile is something that is really prominent and prevalent. And think about how you're going to basically take advantage of that. And we're here to stay. And when we look at some of the clients that we work with, it really echoes through the type of events that we're working with these clients on as well. So we don't really believe that there are any parameters or there are any restrictions around when or where you can use a mobile events application. We've delivered mobile events applications for events of around 25 to 50 attendees, all the way through to larger scale events of around 50 to 75,000 attendees with exhibitors, etc. So we believe that you can really utilize this as a content delivery mechanism to engage better with your attendees and your stakeholders all around. Thank you very much. Any questions? Cool. Thank you. So if you do have any questions, or if you'd like to come and have a conversation with us, we're at booth N118, and we're happy to have a conversation following on from this. We can also make this presentation available to you if you're interested in that as well. But we welcome you to come and have a conversation with us and actually understand a bit more about product and how we actually work with some of the events that could fall into your scope as well.